You're watching CNN Less Than 10, and today's date is April 18th, 2023. Our first story of today is what we as Americans can learn from the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project is a collection of essays and stories that places the Black American experience and of slavery and its consequences in the center of American history to highlight the important role that these individuals have played in the creation of this country. Nicole Hannah-Jones, the New York Times journalist who was the overseer of the original project, was denied tenure in 2021 at the University of North Carolina. Simultaneously, some legislators in Republican states are actively working to regulate the discussion of race within the classroom. Even some historians have also had to point out some of the historical inaccuracies that have appeared within the project. However, the 1619 Project can teach Americans a new perspective about the Black American experience that many have not been exposed to before, and begin to generate new ideas and conversations that might just lead to something more. Next up, we will hear from Emma about the continuing conversation on race.
Thank you, Devon. It only takes looking around at American society to observe the challenges the United States continues to face regarding racism and inequality today. Let's take a look back to history to gain a better understanding of how racism formed in the United States and how businesses and social spheres are responding to the current challenges nowadays. At the beginning of the 17th century in colonial America, there were two categories which defined colonial society: class and gender, neither of which regard race in any way. It was not until the colonies joined the transatlantic slave trade and began using slavery as a main source of labor that racial categories began to form. Thus began the structure of racism that plagues our society today. Just 3 years ago, many faced deep heartbreak and confusion as we all grappled with the death of George Floyd, who was unjustly murdered by a white officer. It is horrible experiences like these that are beginning to elicit a fiery response among society, and we are seeing an explosion of diversity and inclusion movements within the corporate world. For example, Disney, whose Chief Diversity Officer, Latondra Newton, states, supporting the creation of content and experiences that resonate with our ever-expanding global audiences, promoting diverse representation, we are helping Disney remain a place for boundless creativity and belonging. Perhaps companies such as Disney that are targeted towards a younger audience, placing an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion, will begin to reshape the racially dividing tendencies that are ingrained in American history. Looking back upon the past won't change anything, but perhaps it can inform the way in which we better the future. Now passing it on to Lauren.
Thank you, Emma. Women in America are still only making 82 cents to the dollar their male counterparts are earning, but what's the cause of this? As of 2020, 45% of women are graduating college with bachelor's degrees comparatively to only 36% of men, so educational attainment cannot be the issue. There is legislation in place to prevent gender discrimination in the workplace, yet the gap has still not closed. What is truly causing such a disparity in earnings are the societal gender norms that are ingrained in American culture. Men and women often earn the same salary out of college, but within the following decade, women gradually earn less. Women are in the prime childbearing years, so when a couple decides who will have to have a more flexible work schedule so they can take care of their kids at home, the woman often makes the sacrifice. Therefore, we see men earning more than women because they can accept jobs with inflexible hours in which they will be rewarded with a higher salary. There are two ways to close this gap. The first being reducing the cost of job flexibility, meaning the salaries of jobs with inflexible hours may be less attractive, while also making a flexible job a more productive, higher paying one that would be more enticing to men. Making childcare more accessible and affordable would also help eradicate this gap. Countries like France and Sweden offer affordable childcare, while countries like Japan offer childcare in which parents can leave their children there for extending hours of a normal business day, thus giving women more career opportunities. By implementing policy that can achieve these two goals, we might finally see the gender gap close. Thank you, and on to Josie.
Thank you, Lauren. Today we will also be covering recent discussions on the meaning of pro-life to the Catholic Church, various political parties, and social groups. Dr. Remer Berry, a Catholic moral theologian, feminist, and professor at the University of San Diego, writes in her article, "Another pro-life movement is possible," that the church must redefine the pro-life movement in order to truly serve and empower women because their needs are not being met. Why is this concept so important? With the recent decisions justice has made in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there are wide-ranging implications. Effectively, just a few judges from red corners of states have influenced medical choices and restricted the freedoms of millions of American women. Many criticize the prevalent Catholic, pro-life influence on this decision, and this sweeping of judicial power could impact further decisions down the line. In addition to this, she shares her ideas that the Catholic tradition and consequently conservative government representation has demonstrated mistrust of women when it comes to life and death decisions about pregnancy and childbirth. Instead, she states that women should face encouragement and be uplifted. She calls for a change of ways. The pro-life movement must refocus efforts away from making abortion illegal and instead foster a culture and society that empowers pregnant women and helps them to see the good in choosing life. On to you, Macy.
Thank you, Josie. Now, let's dive into the next generation and their thoughts on what it really means to be an American. In a recent study done by Writing Our Future, kids were asked this exact question, and here are some of their answers. Being American means doing your part to keep society running properly. It means you have the freedom to do whatever you believe in. It means we all share the same dreams of success. And to be American means to be united. These are just a few of the many uplifting and unifying definitions that young students have come up with. The younger generation's idea of being American touches upon values and shared beliefs, not citizenship, race, class, ethnicity, or gender that have been barriers in the past. We look back at the Constitution with its opening statement, "We the people." But who are the people? Historically, the concept of being American has followed the changing definition of whiteness, as that term has excluded, influenced, and oppressed European Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, and Black Americans to different degrees since the nation's founding. Today, the definition of being an American is broader, and with an inspiring new generation, can hopefully drop ties to identifiers once and for all. That's all for tonight. Back to you, Devon.
Thank you for joining us on today's CNA Lesson 10, and I hope to see you tomorrow.